Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia and this is the summary for the day of 709 for the 2nd of February. Let's start off with a frontline changes report. There's only one frontline change over the past 24 hours and it's at Kamyanske. So over at the Zaporizhzhia Front, at the Kamyanske sector, there is a geolocation of Ukrainian forces getting hit by a Russian drone. And this basically invalidates the Russian claims that they might be here. So this is gone because the Ukrainians are geolocated here, which means I will be moving the front line back to where the Ukrainian claims are, or based on what I previously understood to be. So this is the situation. This is the only frontline change over the past 24 hours. Everything else, there's no change. Let's start. Let's go to the strategy and tactical reporting, and which is the main SITREP. Over at the Kupyansk Front, Russian forces continue. They are fighting over in this area here, over at Sinkivka as well as Ivanivka. So the fighting over at Ivanivka continues for the second day coming. Ukrainian forces counterattack at Sinkivka and at Tiahinka. So the previously Tiahinka has not Tiahinka, Tabaivka. So the Russian forces captured Tabaivka and Ukrainian forces has been counter-attacking, and this time round we have a continuation of this situation. Russian forces is geolocated over at this position right at the highway region where the front line is. This corroborates where the front line is, and also there's information coming from Deep State UA that the Russians are now accumulating forces or reserve in the Kreminna area, which means the Russian forces is currently building up a force over here, probably not just to do consolidation but to prepare after the consolidation to push forward further. You need more troops in order to consolidate grounds and then to push forward. So this makes sense, this is logical, and we move on away from this front line. We move into Sviatove. There is nothing over there, over at the Kreminna Front. So this is Kreminna city. At the Kreminna Front, Ukrainian forces seems to have a bit more initiative with fighting reported at Terny and at Yampolivka. Russian forces is only reported to be attacking at Terny. Otherwise, this is the only thing currently happening over the Kreminna Front. This is the strategic situation. We move on to the Siversk Front. Over at the Siversk Front, we zoom out a bit. Yeah, this zoom is not here, not there. So anyway, at the Siversk Front, the Russian forces is reportedly attacking Bilohorivka in the Luhansk region, and the Ukrainian forces is attacking Bilohorivka in the Donetsk region. So there is two Bilohorivkas, one over here, another one over here. These are both are Bilohorivkas. So one is the Donetsk and one is the Luhansk. Luhansk is the one on top here, and the Russians are reportedly attacking in the Vasily region. So this is the strategic situation. It doesn't look like much. We will continue to monitor over at Siversk. We move on to the Bakhmut Front. So in the northern half of the Bakhmut Front, there is geolocation of Russian forces getting Ukrainian forces getting hit by Russian drones over at Vesukivka. So this just shows that the Russians are not in the village at all. They are still on the outskirts. And over at the Bodanivka region, the Russians are reportedly attacking in this region. Exactly where is not too sure. There is fighting reported towards Ivanivsky as well. This is reported by the Russian Defense Ministry and Deep State UA. So the Russians are still slowly pushing in the northern half of the Bakhmut. But like I mentioned before, I don't expect huge changes in these areas here because this is a very, very entrenched positions, very entrenched and fortified front line. Over in the southern half, there's only reports coming at Ivanivsky. Klishevka. I'm not sure what's my mouth doing today. Keep saying the wrong name. So Klishevka is the only one that is has report about fighting over there. There's no more updates about any other front line about anything that is fighting. Again, we have yet another geolocation of Lancet attack in the rear position near Stoposhki. So like I mentioned, Lancet geolocations is on a daily basis is scary as hell. And just now I also saw various Lancet attacks, including one Lancet attack on the vehicle of a Ukrainian drone team. So the drone team unloaded from the van and they are setting up their drones to is a reconnaissance drone and it got spotted by the Russian surveillance drone, and then they sent a Lancet at it. The Lancet fly at super high speed and totally destroyed the van. I'm not sure about the personnel in the van, so hopefully they are safe. The New York and Torres region, there's no more reports of fighting over at Pivdene region, so that ended. We move into the Avdiivka Front. So Avdiivka Front is interesting because DPA broke the news. I think we are the earliest, along with I think SITREP maps, I believe, about the change in terms of the front line. Is based on the geolocation for DPA. Our source is Kreminna Front, that geolocated the front line change, and you see Kreminna Front over here. So so we are among the first to report this, and as a result, what we have now is that Deep State UA and RIBA both caught up with this information, and both have reported about the attack coming from the north. So in fact, this information you can say as a bit belated, but it's also the most updated news. It's just that they took time to acknowledge this change in terms of the front line, and the Russians are now attacking the north. There is no new information because this information comes based on the geolocation, and fighting is also reported on the south. So Deep State actually mentioned about the north and the south. The Ukrainians have not lost this ground just yet, despite a lot of the speculation on Twitter and whatnot after this revelation. After I posted the videos and whatnot, they talk about Ukrainians are going to withdraw. I did mention the possibility of this, but not yet. The Russians have not secured the front line yet, so this has not happened. So don't get confused, because a lot of the information out there is super on the pro-Russian side is super excited about this development, but no, this have not changed. Like I mentioned, there is some prerequisite. The main prerequisite is the Russian forces closing up the entire gap and capturing this entire area here between the two water bodies, so that the Ukrainian forces will have to go around this lake, and and if this is the lake that they have to go through, then the Russian forces they can push through and close up the other gap, and then you will have the collapse of the entire northeastern or northern part of the Avdiivka outskirt. So if not, this is not yet. Definitely the Ukrainians are not going to sit there and do nothing. They are not going to rest on their laurels. They're going to counter attack, and just expect more reports later of Ukrainian counter-attacking to recapture these grounds, because they can't lose it. Clearly the Ukrainian commanders are not stupid. They are very bright. They know what to do. They just don't have the resources. So NATO, if you want Ukraine to win, you have to give more weapons, or give more ammunition, or do more, send a few aircraft carriers and give it to Ukraine. If not, then it's very hard. Anyway, there is artillery shelling reported just south of the lake region, and then also there's airstrike reported within Avdiivka itself, and these are the only geolocated ones. Clearly there is a lot more strikes, from grads to thermobaric to airstrikes, helicopter strikes, missile strikes, all over the front line. So these are just geolocated ones. So over at the other half of the Avdiivka front, there is also RIBA catching up with the frontline change of Opitne. This one we already mentioned in the frontline changes report yesterday. So this is the catching up of the report. So we are getting ahead of RIBA and Deep State, which is kind of unusual. Usually that's not the case, but this also shows the effectiveness of using the geolocation to help us with updating the front line, and credit goes to Kreminna Front and the military summary, my two main source for geolocation. Then there is attack at the Pervomayske region at Nevelske. So the Russians are still in the initiative in this region here. According to Deep State UA, there is a accumulation of Russian forces in Pervomayske. The idea is to consolidate their ground and then continue to push on in the offensive in this area here. Ukrainian forces are still geolocated within Pervomayske, so this shows that the Russians have not captured the town or the village. So no, this is just a verification. Moving on away from Avdiivka Front, we move into the Donetsk Front. So this is Donetsk City, and this is Donetsk Front. and then this is Avdiivka Front, in case you are wondering. And so in the Donetsk Front, in the Marinka sector, which is over here, this is the Marinka sector, the Russian forces is reportedly attacking south of Krasnohorivka. This is Krasnohorivka. They are attacking towards Georgievka or Georgievka, and in the north, attacking in the north of Novomikhailivka and generally in the region of Novomikhailivka. So the report of talking about the north is actually by Deep State UA. They mentioned specifically the attack from the north, and generally the strategic situation remains the same. There's nothing very special about all these things. These are all the usuals. There's nothing over the Voleda region. Over at the Zolota Neva. The Zolota Neva is still under attack according to Ukrainian Defense Ministry. So I mentioned the importance of Zolota Neva. Check out the conclusions from yesterday. I went deeper about Zolota Neva and how this can be exploited to destroy the entire Donetsk Front. So I'll drop the link at the end of this video. Do check it out. It's published on the main channel. So for those that want to support my work, of course, you can subscribe over at the Patreon, Boosty and whatnot. The link is in the description below. Then you can get totally uninterrupted, no ads videos of the entire SITREP without having to look for where the videos, the reports are. And this also help to fund the work that is needed to monitor this war, because it takes a lot of time. Over at the Zaporizhzhia Front in the Velika Novosilka sector, just next to the Donetsk Front, the Russian forces is attacking Uruzhaine while the Ukrainians are attacking Prione. So this continues to be a very positional affair over the Velika Novosilka sector. I'm not going to talk much about this. Nothing over the Huyaipole sector. Over the Orikhiv sector, we have the usual, the Russians attacking at Verbove in the west of Verbove and Robotine. So this continues to be the case. As I mentioned before, this is going to be positional. They are not going to change the front line much. Ukrainian forces are geolocated inside Robotine, getting hit by FPV drones, and the return of Nesteryanka. The Russians attack as Nesteryanka continues. In this area here in Nesteryanka, southwest of Orikhiv. This is another one that I always say to watch, because this is not the usual place that you expect the fighting to be. So there is something more to this. And over at this Kamyanske sector, as I mentioned, Ukrainian located in the southern part of Kamyanske or southeastern part of Kamyanske, changing the front line. Otherwise, there's nothing over there. We move into the Kherson Front. So this is the Kherson Front. This Kherson city, at Kherson Front, the Russian forces are attacking Krinky. According to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, there's no other changes. So Krinky, the map is now updated based on the yesterday's geolocations and not geolocation. The map changes, the front line change. So this is how it looks like right now. And Russian forces is still pushing Krinky, but there's not much other news regarding this information. And Ryba acknowledged that the Krinky region, Ukrainians are still there, and this is I told you so. Because there are so many reports out there saying that Krinky has been taken by the Russians. It's not the case, and this is why you are watching DPA. And that's it. This is the summary for the day of 709 for the 2nd of February. Let's do a bit of conclusion. There's not much happening over the past 24 hours, and for this video, it will not be split because the conclusions are probably not going to be very long. There's not a lot of frontline changes, so it's going to be one consistent report. But again, I want to highlight, if you for the future, when there's a lot of things happening, I will split up the videos, because you guys keep complaining about the videos being too long. So I will split it up into shorter videos. And so for those that subscribing and supporting DPA financially, you're going to have the full long version in Patreon, Boosty, YouTube members, exclusive, whatnot. You're going to see this under the paywall. For those that are unable to support DPA financially, you can still watch everything. Everything is still free. You're still able to watch it, but it will be split up in the DPA War channel or the main channel accordingly. Usually the conclusions will be on the main channel. The rest, the frontline changes and the SITREP will be on the DPA War channel. Otherwise, the conclusion wise, Avdiivka continues to be the case. The Russians still attacking. So this is the second day already, first and second. So this is a interesting continuation. Previously, they fought for 3 days. So I'm not sure how many days the Russians are going to push here. Reinforcement over at Kreminna is significant because this corroborates the information, or not it's not information, my analysis that the Russians are going to push further, and that they need the reinforcement in order to secure the lines and then send an attack towards Pishani from two sides. So this is probably going to happen. Ukrainians are desperate to push the Russians back from Avdiivka because it's dangerous, because this is going to be super dangerous for the Ukrainian side. So this is brewing, and this is definitely going to be very scary for the Ukrainian side. We move on. Siversk Front went super quiet, which is interesting. Nothing over the Kreminna, to be honest. And over the Vasily, I mentioned before about the high grounds. These are the various hills that is on the north of Vasily. The Russians will have to capture these hills, all these hills, in order to secure Vasily. So we have this report about fighting in the area of Vasily, which is interesting. I'm not sure if it's actually here, because the Russians actually say the Ukrainians attacking towards Bilohorivka in the Donetsk region in this area. So the fighting is probably over this area. If I zoom out a bit, you can see Bilohorivka. Okay, actually you don't need to zoom out. So Vasily is here, Bilohorivka is here. The Russian Defense Ministry said the Ukrainians are attacking towards Bilohorivka, but this might be a projection. This might actually be the Russians attacking from the direction of Bilohorivka upwards. And which then, if this is true, then it corroborates what I mentioned in the conclusion yesterday, which I did mention that you should watch, because the Russians is likely to attack from this direction to capture the first hill, and then go towards westward to capture the rest of the hill. Then they can secure Vasily. So the attack coming from Bilohorivka towards this direction makes sense, and which is also why we are seeing the Russian Defense Ministry talking about Ukrainians attacking towards Bilohorivka in this direction, because sometimes the Russian Defense Ministry does the same thing as the Ukrainians. They project. Obviously they are the one attacking, but they say that it's the opponent that is attacking, because they count the counter attack as an attack. So this is looking to be exactly panning out to be how I thought it's going to be. We will monitor and see how this goes. It's very, very interesting to see my theories getting played out. The rest of the Bakhmut front is very Bakhmut. There's nothing much to talk about. So otherwise, conclusions on the Avdiivka is interesting. Like I mentioned, we for the first time went faster than Ryba and Deep State. So end up there's no news, because the news was reported yesterday. I already blocked it yesterday. So this is actually interesting. The Russians are pushing in this unusual pincer, because this pincer is actually into the city. So this is not what a pincer usually is. Pincer is actually used for encirclement, should be like this, but the Russians can't push out. These two push has been failing for a long time. So I think the Russians just want to draw the attention of the Ukrainians into Avdiivka itself, and bring the fight within Avdiivka, and then weaken the lines outside. Then they can do an encirclement. So the consideration for the Ukrainian side is not just to hold a city, which is going to be very, very difficult. As I mentioned, there's only one road in, which is this road. This is the only road in. So the consideration is sending enough forces to hold the entire front line. The Ukrainians need to hold the entire front line in the north, entire front line in the south. Then they can actually concentrate on the fighting at Avdiivka. So a lot of reinforcement will be needed to secure this outer flank, in order to concentrate on the inside fighting. So this is going to be very, very challenging for the Ukrainian side, because the pressure is on. The Russians are pushing very heavily. There's a lot of rumors about the lack of ammunition, the outclassing of the artillery battles. So this is going to be very, very, very challenging for the Ukrainian side. And the Ukrainians, according to certain information, is banking on FPV drones as a replacement for artillery, for the lack of artillery systems. And it can be useful because FPV is a lot more accurate, but but you cannot rain suppression fire. So that is the main thing. And of course, Zolita Neva continues. So this is the one I'm very curious. Watch the conclusions, how I talk about how the Russians can operate Zolita Neva into a defeat of the entire front line here. And otherwise, the rest, again, Nesteryanka, same thing. This is a bit like Zolita Neva. Nesteryanka can, you know, cause major problems in the Orikhiv sector and collapse the entire salient, the Ukrainian salient at Robotine and Verbove. And otherwise, Krinky, nothing much to talk about. And that's it. This is the summary for the day of 709 for the 2nd of February. Do attack the like button, bombard it, you know, shell it, you know, murder it, and yeah, but click one time enough. Don't click 2 times. Click 2 times is your light disappear. So and I'll see you guys in the next update.